Ready? Welcome, everybody. We reflect today on the Gospel of Luke in our prayer. On a Sabbath, Jesus went to dine at the home of one of the leading Pharisees, and the people there were observing Jesus carefully. In front of him, there was a man suffering from dropsy. Jesus spoke to the scholars of the law and the Pharisees in reply, asking, "Is it lawful to cure on the Sabbath or not?" But they kept silent. So he took the man, and after he had healed him, dismissed him. Then he said to them, "Who among you, if your own son or ox falls into a cistern, would not immediately pull him out on the Sabbath day?" But they were unable to answer his question. The Gospel of the Lord. There's a phrase in the beginning of the Gospel that struck me. And it says that the home of the leading Pharisees and the people there were observing Jesus carefully. Now, I may be reading too much into that, but that phrase, observing him carefully, means that they had him at a distance. They were watching, not so much concerned in getting to know him, but rather to see what he was up to, what his agenda might be, how that agenda might impact on them and their security. Observing, not meeting, not getting to know. They weren't necessarily sinful or mean people. They were knowledgeable, educated, leaders of the community, respected, and because of that, perhaps, they had more invested. This Jesus going about curing people, preaching that God loved these people, was upsetting the balance, or at least as they saw it, perhaps upsetting their position of power and respect. And so they were observing him. Some, I guess, seeing what he was up to, but certainly others hoping to catch him, to trap him into some public statement that would cause his downfall. And then he turns to them and says, "Will you cure this man on the Sabbath? Is it lawful?" And they don't answer him. They keep observing, keeping him at a distance, perhaps, or at least they think they are. And so before Jesus goes any further, he turns and cures the man, and then challenges the community observing him to reflect on themselves. Which of you would not, if your son or oxen fell into a cistern on the Sabbath, make the effort to rescue them? You'd break the Sabbath for your own concerns, for your own family perhaps, but not for a stranger, not for someone in the community that is not directly connected with you. And he leaves it there. What do they do with it? I have no idea. But I would imagine they already let it go by because they were still busy observing Jesus. How does he line up? How can I avoid these confrontations? How can I maintain the status quo? How can I keep my comfort zone, perhaps, we would say? And that's often my relationship with God, perhaps looking, perhaps just observing, knowing the rules, knowing what should or should not be done, fairly confident that I'm maintaining some semblance of order, but looking at others with a sense of dispassion, making sure they keep the rules, that society is orderly and neat, but not investing myself in their lives, in their concerns, or in their needs. And yet that's exactly what Jesus is calling us to. It seems to me that when he says, if you're going to be a follower of me, then you need to love. You need to be invested in other. It's the crazy way of finding out who I am. If I keep observing, if I keep distance, if I keep everything objective and maintain my comfort zone, then I'm not involved. I may not be upset. I may not be challenged. I may even maintain my status, but probably not. Something's going to come and upset me. Somebody's going to challenge it directly or indirectly. And that person or that situation I'll respond to probably with some aggression. But then where am I listening to Jesus, not observing him? Where am I letting his teaching touch my heart and change the way I look at situations, the way I relate to others, where I find myself obligated, because I believe in the presence of God, to become involved with people, to try to lift them out of their difficulties in whatever way I can, not necessarily solve the problem. There's the challenge. Jesus asks me to love. He asks me to love because it's the only way I can really find out who I am. It's the only way I can really ultimately find out who Jesus is, because he is love. That's the challenge of our faith. As we go through this pandemic, and as we're experiencing the rain that's coming without end, it seems, we may find ourselves becoming more introspective, more isolated, wondering, what has any of this have to do with me? Cure the pandemic, the infections, cure the difficulty, bring the sun, make the day better, at least that much. But that's all about me, and natural enough. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person, but it may mean I'm just an observer of everyone else, and the only concern I have is with myself. As understandable as that may be, it's not what Jesus calls us to. And if I settle for that, then I'll never find my potential. I'll never become even close to the person that God made, that God calls, that God invites to serve him by loving one another. I hope your day is safe and continues to be profitable for you, that we continue to pray for one another and maintain our confidence and faith in the presence of God.